Welcome, history lovers. Today, we're exploring some of the strangest and most unbelievable historical facts that will make you question everything you thought you knew. These aren't your average historical tales. They're the events and details that reveal how truly bizarre history can be. Ready to dive in? Let's uncover 10 jaw-dropping historical facts that are as strange as they are true. Number 10. Cleopatra lived closer to the moon landing than to the building of the pyramids. When we think of ancient Egypt, Cleopatra and the pyramids often come to mind together. But here's the strange truth. Cleopatra lived closer in time to the moon landing than to the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Cleopatra was born in 69 BCE, while the Great Pyramid was built around 2560 BCE, over 2,500 years before her birth. In comparison, only about 2,000 years separate Cleopatra's lifetime from the 1969 moon landing. This fact reveals the vast timeline of human civilization. Cleopatra was living in a world of advanced Roman technology, far removed from the early dynasties of Egypt that built the pyramids. It's incredible to think that one of the most iconic symbols of ancient Egypt was already ancient by the time Cleopatra ruled. This historical fact is a reminder of just how ancient some of our history is. The pyramids were as old to Cleopatra as she is to us today. It's a mind-bending thought that challenges our perception of time and emphasizes how connected yet distant our history really is. Number 9. The Great Fire of London was a surprisingly low-casualty event. The Great Fire of London in 1666 is remembered as one of the most devastating events in the city's history, with flames that destroyed much of London's medieval infrastructure. However, one strange fact is that despite the massive destruction, only a handful of people, 6 to be exact, were recorded as casualties. For a fire that leveled much of the city, this low death toll is incredibly unusual. Historians believe this might be due to poor record-keeping, or that many deaths simply went unrecorded. However, it could also be that people had enough warning to evacuate. The fire did cause tremendous property loss and left thousands homeless. But the strangely low fatality rate makes it one of the most puzzling aspects of this disaster. This fact serves as a reminder that sometimes, even the biggest disasters can have unexpected outcomes. The Great Fire reshaped London's cityscape, leading to improved building codes and city planning. But its low casualty count remains an intriguing mystery that challenges our assumptions about historical tragedies. Number 8. The Dancing Plague of 1518. When dancing turned deadly. In the summer of 1518, residents of Strasbourg, now in France, were struck by a strange and terrifying phenomenon, a dancing plague. For reasons still unknown, hundreds of people began dancing uncontrollably in the streets, some for days on end. This strange dance mania spread rapidly, and many people danced until they collapsed or even died from exhaustion, strokes, or heart attacks. Historians have theorized that the event could have been caused by ergot poisoning, a hallucinogenic mold found on wheat, or mass hysteria brought on by stress and hardship. But no definitive cause has ever been confirmed, making the dancing plague one of history's strangest and most disturbing events. The fact that so many people were affected without clear reason adds an eerie, almost supernatural quality to the story. The dancing plague is a reminder of how mysterious human behavior can be, especially under stress. It's one of those historical events that defies explanation, highlighting the strange psychological and social forces that can emerge under extreme conditions. Even today, the dancing plague remains an unsettling and unexplainable moment in history. Number 7. Napoleon wasn't actually short. One of the most popular facts about Napoleon Bonaparte is that he was short, hence the term Napoleon complex, for those who overcompensate for their height. But here's the twist. Napoleon was actually of average height for his time. He measured about 5 feet 6 or 5 feet 7 inches, which was typical for a Frenchman in the early 19th century. The misconception likely arose from differences in French and British measurement systems and propaganda by his enemies. British caricaturists often depicted Napoleon as small and feisty to mock him, helping cement the idea of him as a little general. Over time, this imagery stuck, creating a stereotype that has persisted for centuries. It's fascinating to think that one of history's greatest leaders is remembered in a way that's far from the truth. Napoleon's height misunderstanding highlights how powerful misinformation and propaganda can be in shaping public perception. It's a strange reminder that sometimes what we know about history is more myth than reality, showing the importance of questioning long-held assumptions. Number 6. A war fought without a single death. The Football War. In 1969, El Salvador and Honduras went to war over a series of World Cup qualifying soccer matches, a conflict famously dubbed the Football War. However, while soccer fueled the tension, the real causes were complex and related to land and immigration issues between the two countries. Despite the fighting that ensued, the Football War lasted only 100 hours and ended with a ceasefire mediated by the Organization of American States. What's strange is that despite the battles, neither side reported significant casualties. While property and economic impacts were significant, the Football War is an example of how a conflict can be sparked by unexpected triggers, but resolved with minimal loss of life. It's a unique historical event that's remembered for its unusual cause and surprisingly quick resolution. The Football War reminds us that not all conflicts follow the same patterns, and sometimes even intense disputes can have unexpected outcomes. It's a story that shows the strange ways in which sports, politics, and human nature intersect, creating an unusual but memorable episode in history. Number 5. The London Beer Flood of 1814. In 1814, a strange and tragic event occurred in London's St. Giles district, a massive beer flood. A vat at the Moe and Company brewery burst, releasing over 300,000 gallons of beer into the streets. The flood knocked down walls, flooded cellars, and tragically killed 8 people, who either drowned or were injured by debris. It sounds like a humorous story, but for those affected, it was far from a joke. The cause was simple but bizarre, a chain reaction of exploding vats due to pressure buildup. The beer flood left an impact on the community, causing enough damage that the brewery was financially strained for years. Incredibly, the London beer flood became a part of the city's strange lore, remembered both for its tragic and absurd elements. This unusual incident is a reminder of how even everyday materials like beer can lead to catastrophe under the right conditions. The London beer flood is an odd but true example of history's weirdest accidents, showcasing how everyday activities sometimes have the potential for unforeseen disaster. Number 4. Pope Gregory the Thors War on Cats. In the 13th century, Pope Gregory IV declared a war on cats, specifically black cats, which he associated with devil worship. This decree led to a mass extermination of cats across Europe. Ironically, the reduction in the cat population likely contributed to the spread of the bubonic plague, as rats, one of the primary carriers of plague-infected fleas, multiplied with fewer predators to keep their population in check. This bizarre decree against cats is one of history's strangest examples of unintended consequences. Without natural rodent control, Europe's towns and cities became vulnerable to rat infestations, which facilitated the spread of the Black Death. Pope Gregory's anti-cat stance is a prime example of how misguided policies can backfire, creating problems far worse than the ones they were meant to solve. This fact is a fascinating and strange lesson in the importance of understanding ecological balance. The war on cats shows that even well-intentioned actions can lead to disastrous consequences, a lesson that resonates with environmental challenges we face today. Number 3. The Straw Hat Riot of 1922. In 1922, New York City was gripped by a bizarre conflict, the Straw Hat Riot. Traditionally, men stopped wearing straw hats after September 15th, switching to felt hats for the fall and winter. When some men defied this custom by wearing straw hats past the deadline, gangs of youths took to the streets, forcibly removing and destroying the offending hats. The chaos escalated into a multi-day riot, with crowds attacking anyone caught wearing a straw hat. The straw hat riot might sound absurd, but it's a real example of how cultural norms can lead to surprisingly intense reactions. The clashes grew so intense that the police were called in to restore order. It's a reminder that social customs, no matter how trivial, can become deeply ingrained, sometimes to the point of absurdity. This strange episode highlights the power of societal norms and how seriously people can take them. The Straw Hat Riot stands as a funny yet strange historical event, showing that even fashion can incite conflict if it challenges cultural expectations. Number 2. The curious case of the phantom time hypothesis. One of the strangest theories in historical scholarship is the phantom time hypothesis, proposed by German historian Heribert Illig in 1991. Illig suggested that roughly 300 years of history, specifically the period from 614 to 911 AD, was fabricated. According to this theory, the calendar we follow today is off by several centuries, meaning that some of the early medieval history never actually happened. Illig believed that historical documents from this period were altered or fabricated under the influence of the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III and Pope Sylvester II, who supposedly wanted to place themselves at the beginning of the year 1000 for symbolic reasons. This theory, while not widely accepted, has sparked lively debate and curiosity. Supporters point to inconsistencies in medieval records, a lack of archaeological evidence from the so-called phantom years, and a reliance on relatively few sources from this era. Skeptics, however, argue that the evidence for the hypothesis is weak and that the historical and scientific foundations of the current calendar are sound. Nevertheless, the phantom time hypothesis continues to intrigue some historians and conspiracy theorists alike. The phantom time hypothesis challenges our basic understanding of historical timelines, encouraging us to think critically about the foundations of history. While most historians reject the theory, it serves as an engaging thought experiment, making us question how we perceive time, history, and the accuracy of historical records. It's a strange theory that may not hold water, but it certainly holds our curiosity. Number 1. The eruption that inspired Frankenstein. In 1815, Mount Tambora in Indonesia erupted in one of the largest volcanic explosions in recorded history. The eruption spewed massive amounts of ash into the atmosphere, which blocked sunlight and caused global temperatures to drop, resulting in what became known as the Year Without a Summer in 1816. This drastic climate shift led to failed crops, food shortages, and widespread misery across Europe and North America. But it also had an unexpected cultural impact. It inspired Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein. In the summer of 1816, Shelley and her friends, including Lord Byron, stayed indoors at a villa in Switzerland due to the cold and dreary weather. Stuck inside, they challenged each other to write ghost stories. Shelley's tale about Victor Frankenstein and his monstrous creation came to life in this gloomy setting, shaped by the eerie, dim atmosphere caused by Tambora's eruption. This tragic weather incident gave birth to one of the most famous horror novels in history. The eruption of Mount Tambora is a powerful example of how natural events can influence art and culture. Shelley's dark masterpiece might never have been written if not for the strange, somber weather caused by a volcano on the other side of the world. This jaw-dropping fact highlights the strange ways in which history, nature, and creativity intersect, showing that inspiration can arise even from the most unexpected and tragic circumstances. And there you have it. 10 strange, fascinating historical facts that make you wonder just how much we really know about the past. From eerie coincidences to mind-bending hypotheses, these stories remind us that history is filled with mysteries and surprises. If you enjoyed this journey through the weirdest corners of history, make sure to subscribe for more unbelievable facts and untold stories. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and stay curious.